Welcome to RPG Ranked, the channel where all your favorite RPGs are ranked.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to RPG Ranked. I am Brighton Nelson, and here on this channel, we make RPG videos, including Octopath videos. Have a ton in the past, going to have a ton in the future, and we just came out with our first Octopath Traveler 2 video, so please check that out if you enjoy this series. Alright, let's get started. We have all our tiers here, and we are going to get started with Tressa, who I am going to put in the A tier. Bottom of A tier, but A tier. So, here's what we got for Tressa. So, earlier in the game, she's a merchant. The merchant is actually a pretty versatile job, and it's a fun one to have, right? So you have spears and bows, and you can't really do much with the spears and the bows, but you also have wind attacks as well. And early in the game, this is the only way you can really do wind damage, except if you have a soul stone. So, having the merchant, at least one merchant in your party, is very important. And also, when you don't have a bunch of energizing pomegranates, the donate BP ability is amazing. Sidestep is always amazing, no matter where you are in the game. And hired help is a very powerful ability, even later in the game, but especially, well, not early in the game, but like at that midpoint in the game where you like are getting better weapons from side quests and stealing than you are with purchasing. There's a point in the game where hired help is very useful when you just don't really have anything to do with your leaves anymore. And yeah, it isn't as strong as some of the secret job divine skills, but hired help is a very powerful ability. And honestly, the best hired help in my opinion is the first one, because it buffs the defense of your entire party, which is something that you can only do with Sealt's Seduction, some sort of guide or allure character, which I don't like those abilities, or by using Transfer Rune and Stout Wall, but that is also, again, a late game thing. So you can buff your defense really well with the first hired help ability. Then yeah, you get wind attacks. Rest is a nice ability if you want to be casting magic and stuff. I don't think Rest's the best because you can just buy plums, but whatever. Some people love Rest. I just wanted to throw that out there. Let's see, what else do we have? Collect, obviously, is amazing early in the game, especially Tressa, since she has the Eye for Money command or whatever, so you just find money all over the place. And then you have the Divine Skill, which is honestly one of the worst abilities that the merchant has, in my opinion. By the time you really get that divine skill, I think it's easy enough to just get money otherwise from quests or collecting or just walking around. I don't really think that skill's worth using, and it only hits one enemy, one of the worst divine skills, but if you like it, go ahead. So the merchant class is great, and then Tressa, just earlier in the game, it's awesome. And then later in the game, it becomes even more epic because when you have Rune Lord Tressa, and that's why she's an A tier. I'd put her in B tier otherwise, but so yeah, she's pretty. And the merchant class is versatile, so there are a lot of things you can do. It's one of the, I think, if you have with hired help, you can hit tons of different weaknesses. So the merchant has actually a lot more than just bow, spear, and wind. So the merchant class is actually one of my favorites. So that's really good. And then Rune Lord Tressa by the end of the game is one of the most broken things that you can have. I don't think that Tressa is like an S tier character or anything, because earlier in the game, yes, the merchant class is fun and versatile, but it's not very powerful or like not really like really good utility or anything. But it's definitely not the worst class in the game. And then Rune Lord Tressa being able to use Transfer Rune and Sidestep is absolutely broken. She can equip 2 wind buffing weapons as a Rune Lord, and with the merchant subclass, with her merchant base class. So that allows you to do a ton of wind damage. If you combine it with the Wind Rune and some powerful weapons. So yeah, overall, Tressa can be very powerful as one of the best characters once you get secondary job classes, but on her own, like originally just as a merchant, she's not really the greatest. So she's an A tier. She's still good early, but not quite as good as she is later. Alright, let's get into Olberic, who I feel is the worst character in this game, but not anywhere near D or F tier, just C tier. Olbrich, the warrior class, is my personal least favorite class in this game. I don't really see the point of this class other than 1,000 spears. Like, sure, you can make Olbrich into a defend, like, level 3 stout wall insight tank, but, like, to set that up, it takes so much time, and by that point, like, the early game bosses aren't really that hard, so I can't really see that being that useful, and early game bosses are going to have multi-target attacks anyway. All of them have multi-target attacks, so this is not the greatest game to be tanking in anyway, so, but yeah, so you have all those options with the warrior, but the warrior is, like, yeah, my least favorite class, so that therefore makes Olbrich my least favorite, and defend isn't really that great. So basically, I use someone as a warrior if the enemy I'm fighting has a spear weakness, because you can hit them and break them very easily. But otherwise, like a multi-hit sword attack, even the merchant can hire someone to do that. And it might not do as much damage, or it will do tons more damage if you spend the 30,000 leaves. But, yeah, let's see, what else? And you have these self buffs, but none of them are really that great. And you could use Transfer Rune to get those. But you can also use the Dancer's Divine skill on the Dancer themselves to buff, or on the Star Seer, which Star Seer has better buffs. Yeah, I don't really think Abide or Stout Wall are that amazing to use, and I can't think of a time where you would want to use Abide on the entire party, except maybe during the Galdera fight, if you're having a lot of people physically attack for some reason or something. I can't really see that happening, though. Or, the only other thing I can think of is, well, Stout Wall, but you can use the hired help of the original merchant, or you can, use the Dancer's Divine Skill, Mold Dance, Dancer's Divine Skill, Star Song. I can't really think of a time where the warrior is better than any other class, except with, except with 1,000 Spears. And then Brand's Thunder, Olbrich has pretty bad accuracy, so Brand's Thunder, like, misses half the time, and it's not really that great on Olbrich. Like, having Warrior as a subclass for Haunted is something that I like to do, but Olbrich himself is pretty mid. And when it comes to secondary job classes, I run Apothecary earlier in the game. It gives you access to Axes and Last Stand, which is a pretty good ability. Amputation for single target attacks. And then it lets you, if you aren't needing to do any damage or break any enemies, it lets you have some healing, some reviving, and some status ailment curing abilities, as well as being able to help out the team with Doter's Charity. So you have some options. I like to have him as an Apothecary and Apothecary skills don't use that much SP, so it's nice because Olbrich has terrible SP and pretty bad accuracy and stuff. So I don't know. Olbrich, and he doesn't really have his defend, leveling up his defend is just not something I can really ever see. There are very few times where I see that would be helpful. And then later in the game, I wouldn't waste your War Master or your Rune Lord, especially not the Rune Lord. Rune Lord has to go on Tressa. But War Master, I would not waste on Olbrich either. I don't really see why you would do that to yourself. So Olbrich kind of is just like, what do you want to use for that battle? Like, you can give him debuffing with Thief. You can give him even more. So, like, Thief is a nice one. Debuffing, stealing SP, just giving SP to people who are actually good. Debuffing, that's definitely a good one. Stealing, having the option for knives, because knives are one of the better weapons in this game. So some of that, or you can keep him Apothecary, that's what I like to do. Or another good option is Hunter, although Haunted as a warrior is much better than Olbrich as a hunter, but also being able to hit multiple times with Arrow Storm or Rain of Arrows is great for just giving Olbrich the duty to break enemies, so that's good. And then Leg-Hold Trap. Like, if you're going to have a character that's weak, then make them the character debuffing the enemy, because then they aren't weak, because they have a necessary role, right? So just boosting and using Leg-Hold Trap is something that you could do. And I like to put him as a hunter too. So Thief, Apothecary, or Hunter later on. I wouldn't waste one of your four. extra jobs on a character that isn't that great. So, yeah. All right, let's move on from Olbrich. I don't want to talk about Olbrich anymore. And let's move to Therion, who I put in S tier. So, unlike Tressa, so anyone who gets an A tier is really good in one half of the game, but is like amazing, like S tier during one half of the game, but like B tier during the other half of the game. So like Tressa's B tier during one half of the game, but you have like Therion, who's like great throughout the entire game, right? So early in the game, Therion Thief is just a great class. I love the Thief. Some people don't love the Thief as much as they love like the Warrior, but I don't really get that. Steel SP, HP Thief, SP Share, Abra's Reckoning. Abra's Reckoning is one of the best divine skills to pick up early. I think Therion is the best starting character. That makes him because he can steal and get you tons of equipment outside of battle. So you really want to have Therion for doing that. And opening purple chests, although I think purple chests are a bit overrated. They don't really have anything that good in them. But being able to hit multiple times with like a normal attack, double damage, is always great, while giving you HP and SP, being able to steal in general, debuffing with Shackle Foe and Armor Corrosive. Like, the Thief is amazing. This is one of the best Thief iterations in any game I've ever played. Can't really think of a game where I mean, obviously I haven't played every RPG ever, but I think this might be the best Thief that I've ever had. Zidane is pretty good in FF9, but yeah, I think this is the best Thief iteration. So Therion as a Thief is very powerful. And early in the game, I give him, well, I guess when I say early in the game, I mean like 90% of the game, I guess. But I would give him Hunter, because it allows him to, it opens up so then he has 5 things he can do. So he can have knives, swords, fire, and 6 things, because then bow, axes, and thunder. So it gives him 6 options for breaking, which is really good. That's like as much as the War Master even. Yeah, so you have a lot of different options there. And then let's see what else. So yeah, putting the Hunter on him is great. And then just being able to have a multi-break attack, and then adding to the debuffing, it gives him Leg Hold Trap, gives him like Mercy Strike and stuff that you can do. Yeah, I think Hunter Therion is the best choice for him. And then later in the game, I would either give him... some people give him War Master, but I think War Master's better fit for Haunted. Keeping the Hunter on him isn't that bad, but a lot of people give him Sorcerer because he has access to 2 fire buffing abilities, and that makes it fire buffing equipment on abilities. So that gives him a lot of extra fire damage, which for breaking that isn't as useful, because obviously you're not always going to be breaking with fire, but just for doing damage, you want to hit as strong as possible. So honestly, I would keep running Hunter or Sorcerer, depending on what you want to do. But yeah, Sorcerer is a good idea. He has high speed, so that makes him do more damage over and over again, and he has the fire buffing equipment. So yeah, he's a great Sorcerer and a pretty good Hunter if you want to keep him on Hunter. But I don't think you really need more than 1 Hunter in your party at any point. So, but always, you do always want to have someone with like Leg Hold Trap, so maybe. Or you can just put it on Olberic. So yeah, I would give him Sorcerer. All right, let's move on to Haunted, who is also an S tier. Haunted is really great at the beginning. I'm putting her below Therion because she doesn't have as much utility outside of battle. But let's see, what am I saying? Yeah, not as much utility outside of battle. You can't get a bunch of equipment, and without Therion, like, you would actually be really weak in this game because you steal all the best things, or you can buy them, but just steal them. Buy them with purchase, not buy them in shops. But Haunted gives you the Hunter class, which the Hunter class isn't one of the best. It has some amazing, like Arrow Storm and Leg Hold Trap, yes, are amazing, but otherwise it's a pretty mid class. However, Haunted excels a ton at it because she also gets to capture beasts. She has the best in battle path action, right? Beast, and it takes a lot of investment. So if you don't want to invest in it, which I didn't really invest in it, then sure, but it's not that powerful. But if you know what guys you're capturing, what monsters, you can do tons of damage. Crazy amount of damage. And even later in the game, you kill those mini bosses on side quests. You capture them. Those can be very powerful against like Galdera or the other 8 flame dudes or whatever. The refights, the boss gauntlet, basically. Yes, so capturing beasts is very good, and that's one thing that makes Hana good, and the hunter. But she also has great accuracy, which you really, really, really want as a war master, because having bad accuracy is never good. And yeah, giving your war master will give her access to multi-breaking. It gives her the Arrow Storm still, so she still has Arrow Storm, which makes up for the fact that her bow ability for War Master isn't all that great. And then you get like Leg Hold Trap and some of those other abilities, and you get like True Strike, which can be good as a War Master. So you get like, it just makes her like the ultimate physical character that just does a ton of damage physically. And you can also have Leg Hold Trap on the side, which is nice. Yeah, I would definitely give, early in the game, I give Hana Warrior, actually. I totally just forgot I was not doing this right. But yeah, if you give her Warrior, it gives her multi-hitting spear attacks, multi-hitting bow attacks. It makes her quicker with Spearhead. And yeah, and she has higher accuracy, so she'll actually hit those multi-target attacks. And then you can buff yourself with Abide, and you can hit for multiple targets with a sword. Like, you can do a ton of stuff with Hana Warrior, and then later in the game, War Master, which is basically just an upgrade to the Warrior. Yeah, that is what I think about Hana. She is very good. Alright, let's move on to Primrose. That was a little bit of an awkward transition, but we're moving on to Primrose here. I think she's better than Olberic. Some people disagree, but I really do think she is. I think the Dancer class is much more useful throughout the game than the Warrior class is. In my opinion, I'd rather have a character that's dedicated to buffing than a character that can hit some like weaknesses with like basically just a sword and break with 1,000 spears. Like, I think the only reason I really use the Warriors for 1,000 spears, but the Dancer is a great buffer. Peacock Strut plus Cyrus's Scholar magic is broken. Like, destroys everything for so long in the game. And if you combine that with Alfyn's Enlightenment and Alfyn's Auspices, I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of that right, but if you combine those divine skills, and that just breaks the game, right? And Peacock Strut just makes you that much more powerful. Or Mole Dance, or if you want to use Panther Dance to buff Abra's Reckoning, or if you want to Bewildering Grace and grind out your levels and stuff. Like, there's a lot you can do with the Dancer that I feel like you have more utility than the Warrior, so I think she's better than Olbrich. But anyway, let's move on to just her herself. I like to give Primrose Cleric early on and just make her the ultimate, like, healer buffer character. I don't like to do that as much with Ophelia because I think that, I don't know, I just like Ophelia as a scholar class, cleric, but what am I saying? Yeah, I like that better. Some people think, oh, well, I don't know, I like giving, what's-her-face, Ophelia Dancer and Primrose Scholar is better. Yeah, it might be better, but I don't know. I'm just a weirdo, so I like to give her Cleric. And then later in the game, I do give her Scholar. So I guess I'm just being really stupid doing this, but that's what I did when I played. Honestly, be smart and give Ophelia Dancer. But, yes, don't be like me. But yeah, I gave her Cleric early on in the game, and it just makes her an ultimate healer buffer. And then later in the game, when Scholar isn't the best thing, when dancing isn't the best thing, like when you don't really have turns to be wasting on slight attack buffs and stuff, then giving, or like the Star Seer is just a better buffer, right? I like to give Primrose Scholar, because only one person can be a sorcerer, but giving Primrose Scholar allows you to have another character that can hit multiple times for magic attacks. Yeah. So yeah, I give Therion Sorcerer, but Primrose Scholar, and that allows her to hit multi-target magic during the Galdera fight on her own. So yeah, I do think that she is a good Scholar and a good Cleric. Either way, do whatever you want with her, but just the Dancer isn't really the best job. It's one that I like, but is it really the best? Is it necessary? Not really. They only have access to 2 different attacks, knives and dark magic, and dark magic is pretty rare. And also, like, hitting people with dark magic, like all the hardest bosses I feel like have light weaknesses or wind weaknesses, not dark weaknesses. And on top of that, knives are much better on a thief. So overall, Primrose isn't really the best character to have in your party because she just doesn't have, and her path action is one of the weakest. So and I think Ophelia is mostly just a better character. So yep, that's Primrose for you. Not all that good. All right, let's move on from Primrose. I've been talking about Primrose way too much. Okay, let's move on to Cyrus, who I say is above Tressa. So, like I was saying earlier, one part of the game they're S and one part of the game they're B or whatever. I would say that Cyrus goes from being the best character in the game to being the worst character in the game, like, once you get, like, the extra jobs and stuff. But, since that part of the game is so much shorter, I would honestly have Cyrus in my party, like, the entire game before that. He's so broken. Scholar is the best job in the game until it becomes the worst, because he gets outclassed by the sorcerer. But his Scholar abilities, double hit all enemies, amazing at breaking, amazing at dealing damage. Combine that with the Scholar's divine skill, the Cleric's divine skill, and you just have complete decimation against all enemies. Definitely pick up Cyrus, and his Study Foe ability is so helpful. I mean, if you're using a walkthrough or something, you don't need it, but come on. You don't need to be using a walkthrough for every game you play. Like, Cyrus is a very, very, very powerful unit. S plus for a lot of the game, but like literally D or F at the end, because there's nothing that he brings to the table. He's one of the worst He's one of the worst sorcerers later in the game because he simply doesn't have any access to weapons in his base job that buff any elements, or he doesn't. It's just redundant to give him sorcerer because then you're like, oh, well, somebody else could have been even better. So basically, like for the Galdera fight, I just made him an extra healer cleric, you know. So this is what I do with Cyrus. So I make him a merchant early in the game so he can hit for wind attacks, so he can have those extra weapons, so he can like have like the rune glaive and some of those better like outside of staff elemental attack buffing equipment. And then you can, if you're not having to attack with magic, you can transfer BP, you can use sidestep, like you can do different things. I think merchant is a great pick for Cyrus early game, and then later in the game I just made him a cleric because there's not much he can do better than any of the other characters. So yeah, Cyrus is S plus for a huge portion of the game, and then the end he like drops down to D or F. So I think that A tier was a happy medium for him. Since he's just the best character at the game at some point, I had to put him above Tressa because she's like one of the best characters at that point in the game, but that point of the game is like literally a few hours. And I mean, there's a ton of hours of like grinding you might have to do, but that part of the game is not nearly as important because honestly, that's like a super boss. Like sure, it's the final boss, but really the stories are why I played this game at least. Like Galdera's not why I played this game, so Cyrus is one of the best characters early, but one of the worst later. Anyway, let's move on. I've been talking about Cyrus forever. Ophelia is very much our 1B tier character. She's a healer. Like, there's nothing you can go wrong with having Ophelia in your party, but she's just not the best you can do. She's very average. her guide ability is not very good in battle, like just worse than beast lore. What am I doing? And I like to make her like the red mage or whatever. Like she can hit light, she can hit fire, and then ice and thunder. And I like to make her that, analyze, and that way I can, if I put her in the party at the same time as like Cyrus, I can give Cyrus Alfric's Allspices and Alfyn's Enlightenment or whatever. Then I can just do tons of magic damage. And I like making her like the red mage type. A lot of people like to make her the ultimate buffer, but I like to do that with Primrose since she doesn't have that much better to do. And I think cleric is always a solid base job. Like, there's never a time in the game where I'm like, okay, having cleric is bad. Whereas dancer just falls off the more later you get in the game. But yeah, Ophelia is just basically a better version of Primrose in my opinion, but she's not really much better than any of the other characters on this list. So basically, I give her Scholar early in the game so she can be a red mage, and later in the game I give her Starseer to be a buffing character because healing and buffing is nice. But honestly, like, I've given Starseer to Alfyn before, but Alfyn already has all of that. He stands alone and is great on its own, and Ophelia needs Starseer to catch up to Alfyn, and it's a good class to put on her. Because you want someone to be a Starseer, right? And I think Ophelia, since she doesn't have that much going on, you could make her the Starseer. Alright, now that we're done with all these people, let's get to my boy Alfyn, my favorite character in the game. Both in battle and in story and in personality. Just in general, Alfyn is the best. Alfyn literally is the one character that I feel like it does not matter what the heck you put as his base job. Not base job. I always say base job. His secondary job. Because he already stands alone as a perfectly powerful character on his own. And I think that that's one thing that makes him S+. His concoct ability, you can give your whole party 2 BP. You can give one person 4 BP. You can... I mean, yes, you have to go out of your way to get ingredients at some points. But it's never that much of an issue. You can heal the most health of any healing ability outside of purposely having someone die and using an olive of life, a large olive of life on them. And his just being able to have Doter's Charity and Rehabilitate and all this stuff just on his base job, in addition to Concoct. Like, once you have Doter's Charity on, you can Concoct and give everyone in your party 4 BP. And then combine that, like, at that point, you can use, like, Ophelia as a Starseer, hit with her Starseer's Divine Skill, Surpassing Power, do tons of damage. Or you can just unleash all your most powerful Divine Skills. Like, you can do a ton of things just with Alfyn's Concoct ability, just with Doter's Charity, just with Rehabilitate, First Aid, Vivify. He's just the ultimate support character, and I always put support characters in first because without them, you're not going to do anything, right? Alfyn's the best of that in the game. And you don't even need a subclass for him to be broken. So, what I did just early in the game, I just made him a dancer, because that's the one thing that he can't do on his own is buff, like, defense and stuff. But also making him a cleric can be good. It just depends on the battle. Like, I usually had him a dancer, but there's sometimes I changed him to a cleric just to give, like, Reflective Veil or Sheltering Veil if you're fighting a magic-based enemy. But yeah, and Alfyn, and also he can break with any element right from the get-go as soon as you start the game. So basically he has axes and every element as well as healing. And no other character has every element unless you have a bunch of different beasts with all the different elements, but you still, then you couldn't have beasts with different attacks. So, yeah, I think that he's an S+ because he stands alone as an amazing character, even if you don't have any secondary job on him. But speaking of secondary jobs later in the game, I would give him Thief or Hunter or Dancer. Just one of the... Just to have something to buff or debuff, right? Dancer, you can buff your characters, all the sorts of stuff. Thief, you can give you can debuff the enemies, which is a nice thing to do because you want to do that and you don't want someone who is dealing damage to be wasting their turns debuffing, so Alfyn's a good pick for that. Or, of course, you want someone with Lighthold Trap, so you could do Hunter, but I'd rather do thief or dancer on Alfyn and leave the hunter to Olberic, the leg hold trap, or whatever. But yeah, I think Alfyn's the best character. I think that, honestly, any of these top 5 characters, if you told me any of these guys were the best character, I would be like, okay, I get it, right? Because Alfyn stands alone, he's very good. Therion's the best single target attacker for most of the game, and he's the best candidate for sorcerer, best candidate for war master, great at breaking with and having beast lore, a lot of options. Cyrus is the best early in the game. Tressa is the best later in the game. Like, there's just a lot of different, like, all these top 5 I feel like are like so close in how good they are. It just depends on personal preference. And then these 3 just fall behind, but like it's kind of hard to rank the characters in this game. So if you disagree, I literally don't care. Like, just tell me. Tell me down below what you think are the best characters in this game. And thank you guys all for watching. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for making it through this video. If you enjoyed this video, we have a lot of other Octopath videos. Sorry, I messed up a lot of my words and stuff. I'm trying my best. This isn't entirely scripted because my scripted videos, I sound very boring and really like too analytical for someone to enjoy the video. So I'm trying my best here. Anyway, thank you guys all for watching. Please like, subscribe, drop a comment down below who you think the best character is, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, RPG nerds.